Graceman Knowledge All, GMK. Welcome to my YouTube channel, where you are taught all you need to know about accounting, finance, and lots more. Remember to like, share, and subscribe.
You are welcome to Graceman Knowledge All. In this episode, we're making progress in the IAS 16 property pattern and equipment exposition. In the previous episode, we talked about the objective of IAS 16 property pattern and equipment, which said that the objective of IAS 16 is the accounting treatment of property pattern and equipment with respect to the preparation and presentation in financial statement. And this is with emphasis on the cost, the carrying amount, the disposition, and the impairment loss. And one of the things that was discussed in the previous episode was the initial recognition. And we said initial recognition can be with respect to acquired assets, self-constructed assets, exchange of assets, subsequent expenditure, and separate items. In the last episode, we talked about the acquired assets. What are the costs that make the cost to be recognized at initial recognition? Also, we talked about under self-constructed. We also talked about, with detailed example, the cost that should be recognized at initial recognition. In this episode, we'll be talking about the exchange of assets. What does exchange of assets mean? It is important to mention that an asset can be acquired or recognized in the books not only by acquisition or by purchase, and not also only by self-constructed. An asset can be brought into an establishment through exchange. What does exchange mean? You have a car, you want to exchange it for an equipment. That is an exchange. So the question then will be, how do I recognize it in my books at initial recognition? There are options, and IAS support that for recognition of exchange of assets, fair value must, the cost of the asset must be recognized at fair value. And fair value here is talking about one, fair value of the assets you are exchanging for. If that asset doesn't have commercial value or is not measurable, then you use the fair value of the asset you are collecting in exchange. And if the asset you are collecting in exchange also doesn't have fair value, you then use the carrying amount of the asset you are exchanging. And what's another for carrying amount? Another for carrying amount is net book value. And net book value is the cost of the asset minus accumulated depreciation. For emphasis, what are we going to use in record at initial recognition of exchange of assets? We have the fair value of the assets. If you don't have the fair value of the assets, we use the fair value of exchange assets. And if you don't have the fair value of this exchange, which simply means that the two assets in concern are not measurable, you use the carrying amount of the assets. Carrying amount of the assets. Now, it can also happen that additional cash may be received or added to the fair value at initial recognition. Say, for example, you want to exchange a motor vehicle for an equipment. The fair value of the motor vehicle you want to collect can be more than the fair value of the asset you are exchanging. And the person can say that, okay, you need to add cash. In such situation, the cash should be added to the fair value of the asset you are exchanging at initial recognition. Please take note. In a situation where additional cash is paid alongside the asset acquired in exchange, it will be added to the fair value to arrive at the cost of the asset. It is important to mention that it does happen, or it can also happen, that cash can also be received and not necessarily be added. So if cash is received, that means it will be subtracted from the fair value. But in a situation where cash is added, it will be added to the fair value to arrive at the cost of the asset you are exchanging. That Grace Holding Limited exchanged a motor vehicle. So this means that Grace is giving an exchange, is giving out a motor vehicle to receive what? To receive a plant. And look at this, the carrying amount is talking about what? The cost minus the accumulated depreciation of the asset is 42 million. And a fair value of what? 52 million for a plant. In addition, that Grace Holding also paid 3 million along with the motor vehicle. Recall that I mentioned 3 different conditions or 3 different scenarios to recognition. I said the first condition is you use the fair value of the asset you are exchanging. So in a situation where that asset doesn't have fair value, use the fair value of the asset you are exchanging for. And if that asset you are exchanging for doesn't have fair value, you now use the carrying amount of the asset you are exchanging. Say for example, we now have the fair value of our motor vehicle, we now have the fair value of this plant. What do we use? We use the carrying value of the motor vehicle, which is what? 42 million. I really want to believe that is clear. So what is the cost of this asset? The cost of this asset to recognize at initial recognition will be the fair value of the motor vehicle, which is 52 million, add cash payment of 3 million. We have 55 million. So this then means that at initial recognition, the cost of the plant is 55 million naira. So this then means that the cost of the plant is 55 million naira, being the total of the fair value of the motor vehicle 52 million plus the cash that is paid alone. So we go to subsequent expenditure. Subsequent expenditure, repairs, maintenance and servicing on assets are to be expensed in the profit or loss account. But there are exemptions, and the exemption is any expenditure that improves the quality of an asset to the extent that future economic benefit will flow into the entity as a result of that expenditure. Such expenditure should be capitalized. Such expenditure should be capitalized, and there are a good number of conditions. Number one, any expenditure that extends the useful life of the asset should be capitalized. Any expenditure that increases the quality of the output of such assets should be capitalized. Also, any expenditure that increases the quantity of such assets should be capitalized. Also, any expenditure that reduces operational cost should be capitalized. Example, adding additional room to a building. By adding additional room to a building, such will not be expensed, but what? It will be capitalized. Why? Because as a result of that room, future economic benefits will flow into the entity as a result of that expenditure. Also, replacing the engine of a truck. Replacing the engine of a truck is like buying a new truck. So such replacement cost will not be expensed in the profit or loss, but what? Will be capitalized at initial recognition. So we go to this illustration. On the 1st of January 2021, Graceman Technology Solution purchased RAM to upgrade its server at a cost of 1 million naira. The upgrade will lead to the reduction in transaction processing time. That simply means that it has increased the quality of service. Reduction in downtime. That also has to do with what? Increase in what? In quality. It also reduces the server running into error. So this simply means that through the increasing the reduction in transaction processing time, that means the number of transactions the server will process per time will increase. And when the
when the transaction processing time reduces, what is the implication? It simply means that more transaction will be processed in a very little time, and that will definitely what grow the revenue of Graceman technology solution. Also, reduction in downtime. Any downtime would affect the customer access to the server or the transaction on the platform, and that can reduce the revenue. But once the server is changed, the downtime will be reduced. And what does that mean? It will make what future economic benefit to flow into the organization as a result of this what server upgrade. Also, server will not run into error. When each time the server runs into error, the services will be unavailable. But as a result of this server upgrade, the server will no longer run into error. That invariably means that the cost of upgrading the server will not be expensed, but what it will be capitalized. That simply means that the 1 million naira will be capitalized at initial recognition, and it will be depreciated accordingly.
Thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe.